Metroid 5. Metroid Dread. Such powerful words that I never expected coming out of my non-existent mouth. It could have just been Zelda. I went into that 40-minute presentation expecting to see a short trailer about one of my most anticipated games ever, and I got that. It's good, it's great, phenomenal even. But Metroid, it's here. It's not a teaser that shows nothing. It's not a spin-off that no one asked for. It's not even just a really good game that's only a remake stuck on a dying console. This is what the Metroid fans have been waiting for 19 years. 19 years since Metroid Fusion, the last game in the chronology, leaving us with a tasty cliffhanger that got us wanting more, and then nothing. Until now. I'm very new to Metroid. I played my first Metroid game at the beginning of last year, but I don't care, damn it! This franchise is so good. I've played Super Metroid, I've played Zero Mission and Fusion, and I'm currently playing the Prime games, and they're all so jolly amazing games. Everything about these games is so perfectly crafted to make the most addicting, tight, captivating experience it can be, that the idea that this franchise has gotten anything but a legacy of worldwide triumph is depressing. We got the teaser for Prime 4 back in 2017, but we haven't heard anything about that since. We got the 2D Metroid, but it performed poorly. It seemed like Metroid just couldn't quite do it, escape its deep, sucking hole of obscurity and dormance. But no, we still got a new Metroid. We're getting a 2D Metroid game alongside another one that's coming later down the line. I don't know for how much longer, but for now, Metroid lives. And I'm so happy. But it goes beyond that. It goes way further than that. First of all, this is called Metroid Dread. By now, many people know that this was the title of a cancelled Metroid game from like a decade ago, and that the name Dread is actually part of the Metroid lore, as it was hinted at in Metroid Prime. I can't stress enough how good this is. The Metroid franchise had been building up the Dread both in and outside of its world, so the only reasonable course of action was to name the next game in the series as such. After so many years, there was a chance that Nintendo would choose to abandon what the previous old games established. But they didn't. The people behind this game care so much about Metroid that they're willing to pick back up a hidden tease in a Metroid game that hasn't been sold in 11 years. That just goes to show just how real this whole thing is. Second, it's developed by Mercury Steam. Mercury Steam have solidified themselves as the 2D Metroid guys, with the critically acclaimed Samus Returns. I have full trust in them. I believe it takes effort by the tons to grab a franchise you've never worked with that has been dormant for years in a style that hasn't been explored in decades and still deliver something fans love. I full-heartedly believe that Mercury Steam is the single best choice for developing this game. The Metroid franchise has always been complacent story-wise, as most games in the series feature Ridley, Mother Brain, and the Metroids, even though all three of them are constantly getting wiped out. But then, Fusion showed up, and decided to explore beyond those conventions and give us new forms of threats in the form of the Galactic Federation and the X-Virus, and I was all over it. Finally, something that shook up the narrative, and along with it, the setting and the gameplay itself. Abandoning the Fusion storyline for so long is one of the worst decisions that could have been made, and I'm grateful that it's been rectified. And here's the thing, I've watched the Treehouse. This is my very first time doing that, and there's a lot of things I could dig up. Adam, the computer of Fusion, not the lame guy from Other M, is coming back, which I think is pretty cool. He was certainly a good addition to the cast. Also, apparently this game will end the story of Samus and the Metroids. I don't wanna think this means they're done with 2D Metroid afterwards. I don't know if they will do that regardless of the sales this game makes. Hopefully they just mean that this is the final nail in the coffin for Metroid as a species, and nothing more. Gameplay wise, it looks about as you can expect. There's upgrades, there's the general movement we all know, save points, maps, all the bells and whistles. There are a couple of new additions though. There's a beam that you can only use temporarily, adding up a lot of strategy. And then there's of course these robots, which I feel work as spiritual successors to the SAX, being scary enemies that you usually have to run away from. But they're much more present than the SAX, which I think is pretty neat. I love me some fear in my Metroid games. There's a lot of environmental interaction, which I adore. I think that should be made a pillar in the Metroid franchise, and I am so glad it's present here. And finally, in terms of the world design, we've been told we start inside the world and have to work our way back up, which is frankly delightful and refreshing to hear. And from what I can see, the game doesn't take many cues from Fusion and Zero Mission in terms of guiding the player, telling them where to go, which a lot of people aren't fans of. This is much more traditional Metroidvania, and I think that's neat. As for the visual apartment, the cutscenes could look a little bit better, but the gameplay itself looks good. The water effects, the backgrounds look amazing. The animations are smooth as the smoothest of butters. The whole ambience just feels right. I can't complain too much about it. However, when talking about Metroid, there's always a massive, gigantic elephant in the room, which is how to lure new people into the games. Clearly, there's something Metroid has consistently done wrong in order to get as little sales as it gets. A lot of it always has to do with how the game is marketed and in which console it's on. I understand how a game released at the tail end of the 3DS's life isn't gonna bring in the numbers, but still, I believe Mercury's team needs to make this game as appealing as possible for new players. Making the game super easy, stripping away the things that make Metroid Metroid, isn't gonna achieve that. Breath of the Wild brought new fans by the millions, not by demolishing everything Zelda established beforehand, but by expanding upon it, thinking about the aspects of the series that were becoming stale and shaping them into something more suited to modern design. And while I don't expect Dread to do the same thing to the same degree, I at least hope it tries. Metroidvanias are at a peak in this day and age in terms of popularity. Either take inspiration from the great aspects that the new Metroidvanias have to offer, or just assume that bringing Metroid untouched to the modern world is gonna do it just fine. It'll have to be Nintendo's call there. Metroid Dread is coming after WarioWare, which isn't super huge or anything, and before Mario Party and Pokemon, which definitely are. Please Nintendo, whatever you do, allow Metroid to have its spotlight. It has completely and utterly earned it, and it completely and utterly needs it. Everything that comes to the Switch is successful, and I firmly believe that under the right circumstances, not even Metroid can be the exception this time around. Regardless, I am excited. This has honestly been my favorite game announcement in like 2 years, and I am very happy for Metroid. In the 4 months we have until the game's release, I'm not expecting a ton of things up until the last month or so, and I think that's fine. Whatever we get to see, hopefully you look forward to hearing what I have to say. Thank you for watching.